I'm David Braben. I'm CEO of Frontier Developments. I started writing games back in 1982 with Elite, which I wrote with Ian Bell, and have been writing games ever since. We've had lots of successes. Obviously, Frontier Elite 2, after Elite, Virus, Arch, and then formed Frontier, the company. And we've had loads of good games that I'm very proud of. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, for example, came out in 2004. Still selling now, nearly 10 years later. So that's great. Connectimals, Disneyland Adventures, Lost Winds, done well for us. Dog's Life with Sony, the Wallace and Gromit games. So we've done loads of different games over the years. And one of the things I think we specialise on is sort of is more innovating in each game arena. It's why we did, a launch title like Zoo Tycoon for Xbox One, Connectimals for Kinect, and we also, because we've got our own tools, it enables us to do things other people will find very hard to do. We added Oculus support very quickly to Elite because people said they wanted it, and we've added, in terms of, because the engine's 64-bit, it enables us to do a game like Elite. And I don't think any of the engines out there actually are really very well set up for it. With really long draw distances and truly large environments that we've got in Elite. We need that full 64-bit range.
Awesome, great. And so you started this Kickstarter campaign, and what's your experience and what you want to share about, or we can give an experience to the indie game scene as well?
Well, it was interesting. I think before the Kickstarter started, we agonised about how to do it. We wanted to do it. We knew it was coming to the UK. And it was how much to ask, and we thought, well, all right, at what level would we not make the game if people didn't back it? And I think one of the few people who've actually put a realistic level on Kickstarter. I've seen some projects that are lovely, they're great, and I've backed quite a few, where you think, well, could they really do it for that? They reckon they're going to get a big multiplier, and they're afraid of the fact that they don't get the money if they don't get it. It's all or nothing, which is an interesting, different, even if it's just a teeny bit short. So I think that was very positive. But then I did think, maybe we should have pitched it a bit lower. Maybe we would do it for a little bit lower. And it's very, very interesting, the psychology of that. And if you're thinking of a Kickstarter campaign, just think carefully, really, about, let's say you get it, and it's only the amount you've asked for. How are you going to do? If you put a lot of rewards out there that are very expensive to fulfill, that might actually use up most of the money. And then the thing that you're actually originally talking about, you might not be able to do. And I think we've seen a few a little bit like that. And we went to Kickstarter, not particularly for the money only, because we already had quite a lot of funding internally, because we really care about it. It's really, what is the threshold at which you think it's really worth doing, or below which you're sort of kidding yourself. And that's the difficult balance. But I think Kickstarter's great, really great. I suppose I have another fear as well about non-delivery. That's just more generally. I think Kickstarter is such a wonderful thing. I think it's our responsibility to deliver at least as good as what you said you would. Don't overpromise. Don't do something that you think you can do. Talk about it openly and work out what you really, the honest pitfalls and likelihood of delivering that. Because I think it would be a really real shame if it gets a reputation for just lots of people not doing what they say they do.
That's right, yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that and that insight. And just going back a little bit to the beginning of, as US, do you consider yourself still independent as an indie, or is it... and coming from the beginning of, we started with Elite, and how much were you involved, and obviously in the beginning, and how much you're involved now, with a team now of people. In the beginning, obviously, 20 years or whenever it was ago, it was a completely different story altogether. But now we have, again, the bedroom millionaires or potential millionaires coming up, whether starting in a bedroom or in a garage, with all the tools which are available to everyone. Kind of a reset. Everyone can start being creative, and they have the tools, and it's very easy, even for 9-year-old kids and 10-year-olds to create games and apps and even publish them without the middleman. So what is your take on that?
Sorry to interrupt, they're packing up the bar. Would you like a drink before they go?
Actually, could I have a Coca-Cola?
Yeah, you can do. Would you like anything?
Just another one of those.
Is that red wine?
Red wine, yeah. If you don't mind. Thank you. Just a bottle will do. Okay.
I forgot what I was saying.
Sorry. Yes, it's about the past where you were involved more, and now in the future or in the present where it's obviously a different scene, but obviously the indie scene has the same kind of options like in like 20 years ago.
I think so, and also I'd like to there's a point that you say, Frontiers indie. I think there are quite a few people who call themselves indie who get a bit angry when a company like us, we say we're indie, because they say, oh, you're not really indie, you've got big teams, that's not indie. Now, I would actually, just being slightly controversial, say yes, we are indie. But we're indie in a different way. We're indie in the way that we have, like one of our internal processes, for example, is Game of the Week. So we have something called Game of the Week. And that means people who really have an idea they care about, but who work at Frontier. They put forward ideas, and then other people in the company criticise them. But they get better. They say, oh, that's rubbish. But you can see the ones that are good ideas because they get real traction. Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. And often people say, well, why don't we take this idea and mix them together? And you get something that really works well. And it's that spirit, is the spirit of independent development. And this year, we are doing 2 of those games. Lost Winds was the first one that has been very successful to us. We've had more than 10 million downloads now, which is good for a game. That was done by a team of just 12 people in 3 months. So that's indie. But the problem is, obviously, games like Disneyland Adventures aren't indie. They're funded by Microsoft and Disney, and had 400 people on them. But the point is, it's the spirit. We are independent. We can do what we want. We are doing what we want, and that's what's great. That's where I think, in some ways, we are indie. But I do sort of apologise in advance to people who are reading it or listening to this and getting a bit annoyed, saying, they're not indie, they've got funding, they've got money, they don't live on baked beans all the time.
Exactly, yeah. The different, obviously I have a lot of conversations also with Media Molecule, with people I met at the GDC, and they, they also said, they feel very indie, even if it's kind of be reporting to Sony and all that, but the spirit is indie, and they also fight. So they're pushing against, saying they want to do this, and they kind of, at the end they kind of succeed, and that makes the game better as well by expressing what really makes sense and what matters to them. So that's interesting to see that as well, and seeing different opinions and people who obviously like yourself being in the industry for so long, and people who are just kind of the new kids on the block like myself and others, maybe, or even people just start doing it like yesterday or something, and just having an open conversation about that and what now. And for me, it's interesting just to see creative things happening, new games.
I think that's what's really important. Yeah. We see some amazingly beautiful things that probably wouldn't have come through a publisher route. Yeah. And I think that's the big distinguishing factor. And I think by most people's definition, we're probably not indie. But my point is, we have the indie spirit, and we are doing what I would genuinely defend as indie games. I would count Lost Winds as one of those, even though it's been done by us, because of the spirit it was made in, and the way it was made. It was made as Skunk Works. It was made in stolen moments, almost. And Elite feels a little bit like that. And I know people say, "Oh, but it's a sequel and all this thing." What I mean by that is we've been working to make it possible to make it happen. And Kickstarter was really helpful for that. And I think Kickstarter is a really good friend of the indie. Is an indie game not indie because it's funded through Kickstarter, for example? Yep. And that, in a sense, that changes the indie spirit a bit, but it also brings in responsibility. And I suppose part of the indie spirit is not having responsibility. So in a sense, therefore, Kickstarter means that if it's been Kickstarter funded, it's probably not indie by that. And then I can almost hear now people getting annoyed by that. But all I would say is just to think a little bit and say, well, all right, that's the same argument being used against us. I believe we're indie for that reason, even though we've got Kickstarter funding, we've got city funding, all this sort of thing. Because the spirit's there. Yeah,
it was really what I really want to go back to is like the beginning where how did you start? All the inception of the idea to I just start coding a game like in the early days and just start creating a spaceship simulator, for example, with all the the additional trading.
I didn't
system.
set out to make a trading simulator or anything, or even a simulator. I was already a bit jaded with games in 1982 because a lot of the games are very similar to each other. A lot of them were taken from the arcades, and I bought some games for my Acorn Atom because I thought, oh, finally some games I can buy, and they were all rubbish. And I thought, well, I mean, they were all right, and I don't want to criticise the people who made them because I actually know some of them. I've kept in touch, but what I mean is, they were not as good as I was hoping them to be, because at that point I'd already written a lot of stuff of my own, which actually was quite fun to play. And I thought, oh, what does a professional do? And I looked at it and I thought, oh. And so I thought maybe I should try making games professionally. And then I went to university and I met Ian Bell and all this thing. And I met a lot of people at Acorn socially. And I already had at that point some 3D graphics in a game, which I didn't think was very good, which was 3D spaceships. And I was thinking, how do I make this better? And what I'd always wanted is a game where I could just head off in any direction. It's the open world game, which I think that's the genre Elite started. And the only way I could think of doing it was doing it in space, because it's so easy to render. The clue is in the title. It's empty, and all you're doing is a few dots and then the odd spaceship. And I'd got the 3D graphics working, where we're using the line draw vector wireframe models. And actually, to be honest, I was quite sort of pleased with that. But it's trying to make it work. Because one of the other things that always annoyed me is if you look at the game of the time called Galaxian, where loads of ships come down. I just thought, look, that little bloke, why doesn't he just run away? This is ridiculous odds. Why doesn't he hide behind something? And I started thinking about lots of things like that, saying you could tweak the odds by hiding, but you take them off one at a time. They'd come looking for you, and I thought, well, actually, that'd be quite fun. And I said, but why would you do that? The trouble is you don't care, because you've got so many free lives in the game, and you get them every 10,000 score or whatever. And actually, that was another point. You get a free life every 10,000, you get a smart bomb every 5,000. And I thought, no, I want 2 smart bombs. I don't want an extra life. It's better for playing the game. And thinking along the lines of, well, why don't we just spend the score? You've earned it. So why is the score not money? And in Britain at the time, we had Margaret Thatcher, and there was lots of, it's all money, greed, and all that sort of thing. And Ian and I weren't terribly sort of politically savvy, but it just felt quite right to have score as money. Which is quite, because a lot of, that was the other point. I don't feel you needed a score for a game. It's how far did you see so-and-so? Did you get to this point? And I even started thinking, why would I play a game? I want to play to see new things. I want to play to explore. I want to play because I want to get my status up. And so the status was more the score than actually a number. Hence the different rankings. So there are lots of different things that came in, sort of trying to get progression, rather than just getting a hugely long number in your money. So a lot of things came together with Elite. And actually, the running away was a very big one, because I thought, well, what do you want to care about? You don't want to care about the result of the fight. You want to care about surviving. That's much more important. So I thought, well, what would make it care? Maybe you only get your score if you get to a safe destination, your money. And so Ian and I discussed it at length, and we thought, what about trading? And our fear, actually, with trading would be really dull. No one would want to do that. But we wanted really a justification to travel. So you're travelling from A to B, and you get attacked by pirates. Oh, good, sounds really good. And then that means it doesn't... The expectation is that you don't necessarily have to take them out, but if you do take them out, that's great, you get a bounty. But then you're a bounty hunter, and you don't even need to go to... so it was that. It's a snowball effect. So we started thinking, you're a trader. Maybe you can escort other traders. And, what if you were to be a pirate yourself? Other ships, you could attack them, and it felt very natural. And I think that the game sort of came together as an idea very quickly that way. And lots of the other things sort of supported that. But it was a fun time.
Yeah, imagine.
and it's a fun
Probably
time
is.
now.
Yeah, feels like it.
In a sense, we've gone. I mean, we've done a lot of work. We've done work with Microsoft, with Sony, all sorts of people, Atari over the years. But actually, it is fun doing stuff on your own.
Yeah,
You know, it
because
feels.
you don't have any. You can do whatever you want. Right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
really-
we're writing this game for ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the other difference with indie. You know, you're not about writing it for an imagined market. You're saying, right, I want to make it that difficult. I want to make it difficult enough that I would enjoy it.
Yeah. So you still play your own games, I guess.
Yeah.
And just make it harder. And
But the
like-
great thing is with Elite is we could head out. I could head out into the galaxy and see something that no one else has seen.